Good afternoon. Welcome to the celebration of Temple Concord's second century on the corner of University and Madison. We're thrilled to celebrate together to mark this occasion when our temple's leaders decided to build in this neighborhood. They did so for a couple of reasons. First, this is where the community lived. But even more, they knew the power of being in a neighborhood of learners. And in our neighborhood today, we are surrounded by universities, by hospitals, by houses of worship, people who learn and grow and explore, who interact with the world. And that message, that motivation has fueled us as a congregation for 100 years here, and I hope and pray that it will continue to do so for another 100 years and more. Something tells me that 100 years ago, they never quite imagined that this celebration would take place. In fact, most synagogues have moved, so it's an extraordinary accomplishment to be in the same place 100 years later. Nor would they imagine, I suspect, that we'd be receiving coverage from news outlets and community leaders would be here in as big a crowd as they are today. Nor, I suspect, would they imagine that the story would be trumped by a move from the Big East to the ACC. But something tells me they would be thrilled to know that ours is a community that interacts with the greater community, and that we see who we are as Jews as not something that takes place just in these four walls, but reflects who we are in the community and motivates us to go to new heights, to achieve new goals. We have many guests who are here with us, and I want to welcome them. I'm positive we'll miss somebody, so forgive me in advance. We're thrilled to have Bishop Robert Cunningham from the Catholic Diocese here with us. We're thrilled to have State Senator Dave Valesky, Linda Irvin from the Onondaga County Legislature, Dan Maffei, representing Bill Fitzpatrick, Allison Feinberg, Van Robinson, the President of the Common Council, Annie Maxwell from the Director of Planning for the city, Don Miller from the 121st Assembly District, Colleen Deegan from Senator Gillibrand's office, Monica Williams, also a county legislator, our mayor, Stephanie Miner, who is following in the role of her predecessor 100 years ago, who stood with us in this sanctuary to welcome this congregation to this new home. Ed Michelenko is here from DeWitt. From Syracuse University, much of the upper leadership is in Los Angeles. There was apparently an event yesterday evening. And so while the Chancellor was with us 100 years ago, we're thrilled today to have Dean Tiffany Steinwert from Hendricks Chapel with us today. We're thrilled to have each and every one of you here. We have neighboring clergy here, guests, and we're thrilled that you're all with us. It's my pleasure now to welcome our Shira Shalom singers, our children's choir, who will lead us in song. I knew I'd forget one. Joni Mahoney, our county executive, is here. This one I'm half justified in. There wasn't a county executive 100 years ago. But we're thrilled to have you here.
Good afternoon. For those guests who don't know who I am, I'm Judy Frumkin. I am the president of Temple Concord and obviously very proud of this weekend and this moment. Welcome to Temple Concord and our rededication of this 100-year-old sanctuary. We are privileged to have you enter into this house and celebrate this historic event with us. The fact that this building, this congregation, and this community is still standing and vibrant is a testament to the people who came before us, who built this house. It is a tribute to their will, their commitment, and endurance that we are able to stand here today, a century later, and celebrate, worship, and study in this house that they built. On September 18th, 1911, the Post-Standard reported, "Simplicity, dignity, two marked characteristics of the new house of worship were emphasized at the dedication of the massive synagogue of the Temple Society of Concord. The new temple is one of the most impressive buildings in Syracuse and is equal in beauty to any recent work of art along architectural lines in this city." Of course, we know that a home is not always about the building, no matter how beautiful it is. It is about who is in it, what happens when we are here, and how it feels to be part of this family. Last night, we honored our legacy families, those families who were integral to the building of this sanctuary and congregation 100 years ago. Their descendants are here today, and you truly understand the meaning of this house, this home. Your families celebrated here, prayed together here, were supported through grief and through difficult times. The community came together for you over all these 100 years. This happens over and over again, each day for our present congregation and our community. This is what makes this beautiful building an important home for so many of us and brings meaning to these stone walls. We also have with us today members of the greater Syracuse community, and you understand the significance of this day, that an institution in our community has committed itself to this location, to this city, and to this community. We sit in the middle now of what is known as the Connective Corridor. Our building on this corner is a highlight of the diverse cultural resources that are showcased along the corridor. We sit between Syracuse University and downtown, and we can help demonstrate how institutions like ours can support and engage in both the university neighborhood and the community at large. Our building is also known in this community as the home of the Temple Concord Food Pantry. We provide food for almost over 200 families every week. We are needed to help. That our building is here and able to perform this act of tikkun olam is a blessing. I will take a quote from our history. "It is difficult to know whether our founders could have imagined such an energetic, diverse, socially conscious, and spiritual congregation, carrying on into the 21st century. But through the decades and centuries, Temple Concord has been and endures as a house of learning, community, and prayer. Thank you all for being with us on this historic day." Now we have some people who would like to share with us this day, and I'd like to welcome the Honorable Stephanie Miner, Mayor of the City of Syracuse. Just as the mayor of Syracuse, as the rabbi had said, was a part of this building dedication in 1911, we welcome Mayor Miner in our rededication of 100 years later. Mayor Miner is the 53rd mayor of the city of Syracuse. She was elected in 2009 and is the first woman mayor of any of the big cities in New York State. Welcome, Mayor Miner. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you very much. It is indeed my pleasure and privilege to be here today on such a solemn and joyful occasion. I can't help but think about what it was like 100 years ago and all of the tumult and sadness and indeed revolutions that our community went through in the subsequent 100 years. Revolutions, changes in the very way we think about how the individual relates to the community and the way that we think about different groups of people. And through that all, Temple Concord has been a foundation, not just in this corner, but in this entire community. a place where families and individuals could come on solemn occasions, and joyous occasions, and occasions of great tragedy. A place that has found and brought solace to families and people here, but also in our entire community. And 100 years means that that foundation is not something to be trifled with. And as I was here a little bit earlier, I was struck by how many people thanked me for being here. It would indeed have been a transgression to have not been here, to have recognized this kind of occasion. And if you will allow me a moment of personal reflection, I can't help but thinking that if 100 years ago, if they looked into the future and saw the mayor of the city of Syracuse standing here, they would not view or think of me as that person who would be standing here. It is a testament to the flexibility of the human mind and the fact that we all seek to become better individuals in a better community. When I was elected, the night I found out I was elected mayor, I had a good friend of mine who called me and said to me, and you'll forgive me if I mix this up a little bit because I was a bit sleep deprived at this moment when he called me. And he said to me, you know, Stephanie, in my tradition, we have this saying, and we ask these two questions. We say, is the event, is it good for Jews? And the next thing we say is the event, is it good for the people? And Richard said to me, and I'm telling you, your election is good for the Jews and it's good for the people. And I was very thankful and honored that he said that to me. I can't help but thinking that the 100th anniversary, it goes without saying, it is good for the Jews and it is good for the people of the entire community that we gather to celebrate a momentous occasion in what is reaching the best of what we as individuals and families and members of this community can celebrate. So thank you for allowing me to be a part of it.
Thank you, Stephanie. And just let me say that if we were here 100 years ago and they had a woman president standing 100 years later, those men would not have known what to do with me. So there you are. And I'm sure Joni could probably say the same thing. I'd like to introduce to you Linda Irvin. She is from the Onondaga County Legislature. She's completing her first term as a county legislator, and as she told me, she represents the county a little bit east of here, but in January we will also be included in her district. So thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Joining with me is Monica Williams, who's also a county legislator. And currently, do you handle this area?
I currently do.
She currently handles this area. And Sam Laguza, our colleague who's out of town, also handles this area. So you have triple coverage. But I will say that when Rabbi first came to the community, he had to interview me as his legislator to find out whether I was adequate to represent him. And now, after a couple of years, and they redistricted, they drew the lines differently now, I will no longer represent him. However, I will represent this area. He still says I'm okay. So we're here today to read this proclamation from the county legislature, and I'll let Monica start.
This is presented by Mr. Laguza, Mr. Stanzik, Mr. Kinney, Mrs. Irvin, Mrs. Williams, Mr. Buckle, Mr. Masterpool, Mr. Reinhardt, Mr. Holmquist, Mr. Kilmartin, Mr. Corbett, Mr. Warner, Mr. Jordan, Mr. Lesniak, Mr. Daughtery, Mr. Meyer, Mrs. Rapp, Mrs. Tassone, Mr. Cox. The above-named members of the County Legislature of Onondaga County, New York, on the 6th day of September 2011, wish to honor the Temple Concord on its 100 years of service to our community at 910 Madison Street in Syracuse, New York.
Whereas Temple Concord is the 9th oldest Jewish congregation in the United States and has been a vital part of Syracuse and the central New York community since 1839, and whereas Temple Concord has been serving our community at 910 Madison Street for 100 years, and
whereas Temple Concord is a Reformed Jewish congregation actively committed to strengthening individual and shared connections to God and community, And whereas Temple Concord is dedicated to meeting the spiritual, intellectual, social, and cultural needs of their members with respect for the diversity of their backgrounds, traditions, and practices, they join together in worship, study, celebration, and social action. And
whereas Temple Concord supports the surrounding community by operating a food pantry that provides a 3-day supply of packaged, canned, fresh, and frozen food to approximately 140 families each week, and whereas it is the desire of Legislator Laguza and the entire legislative body to hereby acknowledge and applaud Temple Concord for its 100 years of service to the community at 910 Madison Street. Now therefore be it
resolved that Legislator Laguza and the whole legislative body does wholeheartedly appreciate and applaud the service that Temple Concord has provided and continues to provide to the Syracuse community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I'd like to introduce to you, we do have someone, a representative from Senator Kirsten Gillibrand's office, Colleen Deacon. And thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Colleen Deacon. I'm Senator Kirsten Gillibrand's regional director, who the senator could not be here today, but she did send a letter on her behalf. Dear friends, I am pleased to have the opportunity to send greetings to each of you attending the centennial rededication and completion of the Temple Concord Sanctuary. I am especially pleased to join my voice with yours in honoring the Harris, Holstein, Moss, and Smith families who have each had 100 years or more of continuous ties to the Temple Concord Synagogue. I would also like to honor Judith Frumkin, Rabbi Daniel J. Fellman, and the entire staff at Temple Concord. A synagogue is more than an edifice, it is a community. For the many who gather here today, it is the community where you celebrate, mourn, heal, and hope. Together you celebrate both the services of the religious year and the personal triumphs of each of your friends and family. I commend the individuals you honor here today, and it is my hope that their efforts serve as an example of the positive contributions an individual can make to his or her profession, community, and country. I send my best wishes for a wonderful event and much continued success. Sincerely, Kirsten Gillibrand. Thank you.
It's an honor to present to you Tiffany Steinwert, Dean of Hendricks Chapel of Syracuse University. Hendricks Chapel is Syracuse University's multi-faith center and is the home of a wide array of religious traditions. Temple Concord stands within the heart of the university's geography, and we share a relationship that is based on mutual values, including lifelong learning and community interaction. Ms. Steinwert represents that aspect of Syracuse University that is closely connected with Temple Concord. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I greet you with peace. And on behalf of Syracuse University and Chancellor Nancy Cantor, I bring you warm wishes and fond greetings. We are so delighted to be able to join with you on this day as you celebrate your centennial rededication. It was, in fact, almost 100 years ago to this very day that we at Syracuse University joined the celebration for the first dedication of the temple here. You see, we understood then, as we do now today, that our joint mission of leadership and learning, as well as our shared commitment to the people and city of Syracuse, have forever bound us together. We are proud to have a community partner like Temple Concord to share our love and concern for the community here on the Hill and across the region. We have appreciated over the years the way in which this community has been knit together with that of Syracuse University. Our institutions have been brought together not simply by joint programming, not simply by events or perhaps even seemingly endless construction projects. But more significantly, we believe that our two institutions, our two communities, in fact, have really been knit together over the years, over the century, by relationships that we have built person to person. And for that, we are truly grateful. We want to thank you this day for your commitment as a community, your continued dedication to Jewish life, faith, and culture, and the way in which you have shared that passion with so many others through the years. We hope today that this centennial rededication is not simply a remembrance of the past, but a true celebration of your present and a launching pad into a future filled with possibility. So congratulations, Mazel Tov, on this historic day, and blessings of peace and prosperity as we venture forth together into the next 100 years. Thank you.
As we move along, it is my honor now to introduce Karen Sirota, the lead congregation representative from the Union of Reform Judaism. The Union of Reform Judaism is the lead organization for Reform Judaism around the world and represents more than 900 congregations and 1.5 million Jews. Temple Concord's congregation is historic within the context of Reform Judaism, as well as for Jewish congregations as a whole. We are the 9th oldest Jewish congregation in the United States. Ms. Sirota is here to help us recognize this landmark occasion and reflect the importance of our enduring congregation within the worldwide Jewish community. Welcome, Karen.
I am very honored to be with you today to share in this milestone simcha in the life of this historic institution, marking a remarkable 100th anniversary of this sacred space. A special thank you to Rabbi Feldman and President Judy Frumkin for the kind invitation that allowed me to be here today. I am honored to represent the Union for Reform Judaism, bringing greetings to all of you from our URJ President, Rabbi Eric Yaffe, and from our President-elect, Rabbi Richard Jacobs. They share in wishing you a mazel tov and a yasher koach for the exceptional work of this congregation and for the dedication of the legacy families who have been honored this year. In preparation for my visit here today, I spent time learning about this congregation, and I am overwhelmed to finally be sitting here after seeing so many pictures. Judy was kind enough to forward me some documents, but I did a little Google search as well and read about lots of details through your 100-plus years. And this building, as you all know, is fittingly designated, and appropriately so, on the National Registry of Historic Places. Standing here today, it's not difficult to envision that auspicious occasion 100 years ago, almost to the day, when dignitaries joined together at the completion of this building, which, as history reports, solidified this unique congregation, taking its honored place as the cornerstone of this Syracuse community. I can almost feel the presence of those families whose descendants sit among you today. As the URJ's lead congregation representative, having worked for the Union for over 8 years and having been a congregation president myself, I've had a unique vantage point of witnessing firsthand the key ingredients of a successful congregation. And when I read about this congregation, it isn't hard to understand why 170-plus years later and 100 years after this building was dedicated, you gather again in numbers strong to once again affirm that dedication. Unbeknownst to many of you, I actually sat in this sanctuary during the high holidays while a student living in this beautiful part of central New York. It was evident, and I'm going to date myself, from the stirring words of Rabbi Friedman and the beautiful music that filled this grand space, and your genuine and warm welcome to this young newcomer, that this was a congregation filled with history, vibrancy, and hope. And now, back more than 30 years later, those same feelings return. The The story of Temple Concord is well known in the Union for Reform Judaism. As was said, it's the 9th oldest Reform synagogue, and this congregation is well known for supporting the Jewish community, both locally and beyond. It's been known for strong rabbinic leadership, having only 5 rabbis sit in this chair over the history. The vignettes that I've read are woven together into the fabric of this institution, and it's those stories and this membership, both past and current, that has brought you to this day. The commitment of this community, your dynamic and caring rabbi committed to the teachings of Torah and to all your well-being, the beautiful music of Canterbury that fills this sacred space, the unending work of Jonathan Adler, your executive director, who does every detail without you probably knowing it, and is responsible for how smooth these things run, and to your president, Judy Frumkin, who's very dedicated to this work, and to the still heard voices of members long ago, is a testimony to this space. Temple Concord's history mirrors the history of many long-standing congregations and in many ways reflect the American Jewish experience and the growth of the Union for Reform Judaism, which used to be the Union of American Hebrew Congregations, in case you got that confused. The name did change. Beginning as you did with a small group gathering in the back of a Notion store, Bernheim and Blocks, I think the name of it was, which was a great story. You got together to bring Jews of this community together, and slowly and deliberately you began to weave your Jewish story together. You moved into a new home. You secured rabbinic leadership within 2 years. You began a school. You built a school. And with each success, the congregation grew, and so did the connections to you, to this place. This historic sanctuary continues to reverberate your history, and it is a backdrop for your future. Just the pieces on this bema that have been from your history is quite a telling tale of how connected you have been. Your membership in the Union throughout these multiple decades has been an important partnership. As one of the flagship congregations of the Union, you have looked to the Union for support. Most recently, Lisa Borowitz from the Union visited here to do a workshop on government and leadership. We hope you continue to explore the avenues that are available to member congregations in a wide range of services that the Union offer. Your support of the Union has also made palpable difference, some that you may not even know. Thanks to the dues that this congregation supports with the Union, you have supported Hebrew Union College, Jewish Institute of Religion, which trains our Reform rabbis and from which Rabbi Feldman is a proud graduate. Your support has developed curriculum for schools, helped create our 13 camps, provided specialists to visit congregations, supported victims of hurricanes and terrorism locally, beyond our shores, and Israel as well. And your membership has allowed fledgling congregations similar to this one many, many years ago to open their doors, serve their communities, and be transformed into vibrant communities. And that's because of the support that you have had for the Union. And we thank you for making that enormous difference for so many others. And your understanding that Jews need to help didn't end there. Right here in Syracuse, this congregation continues to make a difference. Your website and your photos tell quite a story. Your food pantry, as was mentioned, provides more than an average of 140 families each week with 3 days' worth of food. And your latke brigade, did you really make 500 latkes at one seating? And your joyous services offered to the community in this beautiful space and in parks around the community. And the program, so ably led by Rabbi Feldman, has been the hallmark of this congregation. This sacred space has for a century welcomed the community. Members or not, Jewish or not, this has been the place where so much has happened. And your work together silently speaks volumes of your joint commitment, as your website so eloquently states, that your purpose is to share your blessings with people of all faith. And now that your year of celebration is coming to a close, during these final days of Elul, as summer quickly fades and the rustling leaves start to change to all beautiful colors, I would love to come back here in the fall. It must be beautiful. You have spent a year honoring the roots of this congregation, but I am certain, as you have always done, you've looked forward too. So on behalf of the Union, I join the hundreds of others who have rejoiced in this simcha. I wish you another 100 years of community, continued growth, and a bright future, building on both your solid structural foundation and the foundations that you and your foremothers and forefathers so wisely created, with your children and their children gathering once again to breathe in the sanctity and warmth of this amazing space. Mazel tov, chazak, v'chazak, v'nitzhazek. May you go from strength to strength.
Thank you, Karen. It's my pleasure now to introduce to you our Honorable County Executive, Joni Mahoney. And let me just say a few words about you. Can I say a few words about you?
Well, it depends on what you're going to say.
Well, that you're a well-respected leader.
Okay, that's good.
And you are the first woman to serve as county executive for Onondaga County.
That's right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Greetings. I really am honored to be here and to be in this structure and celebrating 100 years. Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, Judy, for including me. And I'm very happy to see my own Bishop Cunningham here to celebrate with you this wonderful occasion. When you stop and think about the last 100 years, you can start to appreciate what it must be like for the continuity of a home like Temple Concord. With all that's happened in the world in the last 100 years, to be able to come somewhere with friends and with neighbors and experience it together in the comfort of this extended family, it really is tremendous. I have been here several times, and you refer to it as your home, and I want to thank you because I have always felt very warm and very welcome in your home. As county executive, I have a tremendous amount of gratitude for the work of members of this congregation. The legacy families that are being honored have contributed so much to our community. The Holstein family, the Harris family, the Smith family, and the Moss families. But I know there's so many other families here that have really made Central New York what it is. And I'm happy to be here to thank you for that. And I want to also tell you, I didn't realize until County Legislator Linda Irvin mentioned it, but Rabbi came to see me shortly after he came. And I'm just now realizing that that was an interview. I hope I did okay. And on a very brief personal note, I also want to thank you for something that you may not be aware of. When my mother was a small child in the 1940s, she played here in the building while her mother and her grandmother cooked for Temple Concord. And my mother's grandfather was a custodian here. And the stories that I heard over the years about how warm and friendly and welcoming the people of this community were to my family have really meant a lot to me. So in my official role as county executive, I congratulate you and wish you a happy birthday. And in my personal role, I thank you very much for the kindness you've shown to me and my family over the years. Congratulations.
Thank you, Joni. Wow. Well, we are honored to have Senator David Valesky with us this afternoon for a presentation. Senator Valesky is a New York State Senator from the 49th Senate District. That includes the part of Syracuse, the city of Syracuse where Temple Concord resides. He was first elected to New York State in 2004. Come on up.
Thank you very much. Judy, thank you. I have a resolution as well to present, and I'll do so in a moment. I'm not going to read it, but this was adopted by the New York State Senate on behalf of all 19.5 million New Yorkers back in April as a sign of our congratulations and profound thanks to each and every one of you for what you have made here in this community. You know, as I stand in this space, and it's a great honor and a privilege to be here, I can't help but think, as the beautiful sunlight streams through the windows today, that that is, in fact, a representation of God smiling on this temple and on its families, its membership, and it's His sign that the work that is done here, the faith that is practiced here, has been indeed a good thing. Anniversaries give us an opportunity to reflect, certainly, over the past and how much things have changed over the last 100 years. But it also, I think, speaks to the constancy of the faith of this community, a faith that is not only contained within these four walls, and while, yes, we rededicate a building today, it's the faith that is practiced not only here within this structure, but outside, as the mayor and county executive and so many others have indicated. And the countless acts of kindness and other ways that the families of Temple Concord over the last 100 years have made Syracuse, have made Onondaga County, and have made New York State a far better place. So as we dedicate this structure today, may we also think not only back in time, but look forward to the next 100 years. And I want to thank each and every one of you for helping to make our community a much better place to call home. Thank you and congratulations.
A couple of brief items. Linda, you were interviewing me. I wasn't interviewing you. And Madam County Executive, I believe the same holds for you as well. Who is this new guy and what is he going to do in our community and what do you want from me? But the truth of the matter is we've formed partnerships together all the way around, and that speaks volumes not just about us as individuals, but about our community. And I hope that this is just one more marker in that string of partnerships and moments coming together today for a good time, but also in times of difficulty. This is what makes our community strong. I want to also recognize the Saracen family, who is part of the legacy families who have been a part of this congregation for at least 100 years or more. We suspect somewhere that there are other families who have been a part of that. It's a little hard to track down who were members and who were not. When we look back through the minutes, first of all the people listed were males. There were no females listed anywhere. And so it's extraordinary today that our president and our mayor and our county executive are all females. And it's really a wonderful comment on how far we've come. Beyond that, though, the membership roles were listed as all men back then. And it was sort of the old rule of a male property owner age between 18 and 35, sort of the prime demographic. But as we've gone through the records, we're sure that we'll find more families who've been around for 100 years. So if there are others here, please share. We have not excluded on purpose. On the contrary, we've tried to include. 100 years ago, when this building was dedicated, it was the culmination of hopes and dreams and the recognition of a new reality. The hopes were that this community could continue to grow and prosper. The dreams were that this truly was a land of opportunity. And the reality was that our world was an unsteady place. In 1911, the world was in the midst of an upheaval. Just a few years later, World War broke out, and the people who came together to form this congregation knew that ours was a tenuous existence. Today, 100 years later, those same three issues resound today. We still are gathered with hopes and with dreams, and yes, we still face a reality filled with more questions than answers. Their model, to join together, to build a magnificent space but then inhabit it and use it to make the world better, is the model we shall follow in the next century. Theirs was the combination of the ancient and the modern. This was a state-of-the-art facility in those days. The only real difference between now and then is the lighting and the sound. Then it was gas lamp chandeliers. Now we have obviously electric lighting, and the sound system is electric. And the memorial plaques then were empty and now are sadly filled with the names of those who were part of this congregation. But aside from that, the room in which we sit today is nearly identical to what it was 100 years ago. And it was designed to be a space that could be both ancient and modern, proud and regal, but also user-friendly. A place that could offer comfort in difficult times and also offer expressions of joy and celebration. In that ceremony 100 years ago, a particular psalm was chosen to be read. It was the 84th Psalm. How lovely is your dwelling place, O Lord of hosts! I long, I yearn for the courts of the Lord. My body and soul shout for the joy to the living God. Even the sparrow has found a home, and the swallow a nest for herself, in which to set her young near your altar, O Lord of hosts, my King and my God. Happy are those who dwell in your house, they forever praise you. Happy is the man, happy is the woman, who finds refuge in you, whose mind is on the highways. They pass through the valley, regarding it as a place of springs, as if the early rain had covered it with blessing. They go from rampart to rampart, appearing before God in Zion. O Lord God of hosts, hear our prayer. Give ear, O God of Jacob. O God, behold our shield. Look upon the face of your anointed. Better one day in your courts than 1,000 anywhere else. I would rather stand at the threshold of God's house than dwell in the tents of the wicked. For the Lord God is sun and shield. The Lord bestows grace and glory. God does not withhold bounty from those who live without blame. O Lord of hosts, happy is the one who trusts in you. We pray that these words which connect us to God and to a place to join together, will animate us and motivate us and bring us forward in celebration, in growth, in learning, and in exploration, and in doing that for which we pray, in the working to make our world filled with more peace, more shalom, more wholeness.